Graphic design? Can you make a living at that?
Three, two, one, fun, 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 fun.
Welcome to Design Futures, a show about what happens after design school. I'm Chris St. Cyr, and my guest on this episode is Kristie Malivindi. It's so good to see you. Kristie is a creative director at Jones, Knowles, Ritchie, where she designs for global clients such as Burger King, M&M's, and Coca-Cola. Previously, she has worked for VSA Partners in Chicago, Kate Spade Saturday, and 2 Communique. She is a 2000 graduate of Massachusetts College of Art and Design. And things have changed since then. When we were at Mass Art, as it's known, it was just Massachusetts College of Art. Somehow they added design, even though we were studying design back
We were
then.
doing it. It was there. Yeah.
It was there.
Yeah.
They just wasn't in the name.
Yeah.
There is a lot to talk about because you've been out of school a while. I've been teaching a while, pretty much the same amount of time. I started teaching grad school. When you were an undergrad, I was a grad student.
That's, of course, how we met.
Yeah, that's how
You
we
were my
met.
teacher for like a minute.
I was trying to remember. Was it just for that one day in that one class?
I think it was. Yeah.
I was covering for Dushan in a
Oh,
web
right,
design
I forgot
class.
his name. Dushan, that's what it was. Yep.
But you're not doing web design though these days, right?
Mm.
No. So let's talk about this job. This, like, you're a creative director. I want to hear about where you are now and London, because you are in London.
If it counts, though, it's still English speaking, and I'm definitely
Yeah.
just American, and I work at global brands, so it's not really exotic, but
Well, it sounds
there's
cool.
it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it this way because, there's a lot of current college students and some maybe high school students, and they're like wondering, like, where can I go with this career? Like, well, you could go to London or Paris or
Oh, yeah.
Shanghai or whatever.
Well, first of all, the fact that you can work remotely for so many people, you could literally go anywhere. But then second of all, definitely it's a career where you can, it translates globally. There's always cultural nuance. Yeah, there's some upsides to being a graphic designer.
In your role now as a creative director, what's it like being a creative director? Are you just like directing people and projects all day long? Do you actually get to design anything anymore?
Oh, I don't design anything. No.
You just tell people what to design.
I do. And but that's the thing is I don't tell people what to design.
No, yeah, right.
I just look at what they're designing and help them identify what's working and help to steer them. I mean, that is the best case scenario. My job is going really well. It's not that it means I don't have anything to do,
Right.
but definitely the philosophy, the way we work. And, I'm fortunate where I am. Everyone I work with is so insanely talented, and new generations of talent coming in and the new designers, they're way better than I ever was. And I've definitely always gone with the philosophy that, like, work with people and hire people that are better than you.
Yeah.
And my job is really just to kind of mentor, reassure folks when things aren't going so well, come up with a plan of how we move forward, to be a cheerleader. Yeah, to have those relationships with clients and kind of the high level clients. And
right. So you're looking at the big picture and making sure all the pieces are keep moving forward, kind of thing. Yeah.
And really, like, helping to teach people, because I mean, as you know, as a design student coming out of, actually, this is a great segue to Kelly. When you're a student, you learn, or we did, the fundamentals of design. So like visual problem solving, research, concepting, ideation, craft, you do all that. But then as soon as you get out into the world, you start working, it's like, I know nothing, because there's business and, organization and file servers and the legal aspect and politics and billing and just being a professional human.
Well, I'm just going to, go back to something you did say. And I will just, I just have to say, to the audience, you talked about the talent, the younger talent that you're working with now. Let me just pause and say, and I know Kelly would agree, when Kristie was coming right out of school, we would have said the same damn thing about her. She's insanely talented. Same can be said for you. So don't sell yourself short. And so all those young designers that, work around you, they should know that too. You put in your time being
definitely
super day-to-day talented designer and worked your way up.
but like the working my way up, and even you asking like, oh, you're a creative director, you don't even get to design anything anymore. I didn't aspire to be a creative director. And actually for a very long time, I was a design director for a big chunk of time. I just recently got the promotion to creative director last year, so
Yeah.
it's still new.
Oh, okay.
I was really content being a design director because it put me in a place where it was the balance of still a little bit hands-on with the work. I think there's that linear path and that kind of mentality and philosophy that you should always be like, better, more, better, more
Right.
power, more money, promotions. What's next? What's new? But it's not that I don't have ambition, but I don't know. I do design because I genuinely love it. And there's always challenges. There's always something new, because even if you've done a project like it before, you've never done that project with those clients.
Oh, yeah.
There's always variables. There's different people you're working with. So there's plenty to keep learning and kind of growing. So I was, yeah, having a great time as a design director for a long time. And I think coming to realize I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I think it's time for me to step up, and I do want to step up. And I mean, it's taken me 23 years to have the confidence to recognize that, oh, wait, I am capable of doing that job. It sounds massively intimidating, but to finally be like, wait a minute, I am good at what I do. I think I got to a point as a design director where I literally, when I interviewed for my promotion, I said to my boss, I'm a really good design director. That's not something that in the past that I would ever feel comfortable saying about myself. I definitely suffer from imposter syndrome, like I think 90% of the design industry. But I finally got to a point where I was like, I know how to do this.
Right.
What's next? And like, I don't quite know how to do that thing of being a creative director. And the learning curve is steep. But yeah, it's just up for something new.
And how's it going so far?
It's great.
Things you like, things you don't like.
Oh no, I love it. I don't think there's anything I don't like.
Well, that's
I don't think
good.
there's anything I don't like.
So where you are now at Jones Knowles Ritchie, when did you come in? Like what level did you come in? Not as a creative director?
Oh yeah. No, I came in as a design director, but in New York.
But in New York.
8 or 9 years ago now.
Yeah.
So I started in New York as a design director, worked there for about 2.5, 3 years, left there and just freelanced for a year, during which time I decided, oh, I'm going to move to London. And so I was interviewing for jobs in London because I needed somebody to sponsor me. There's so many upsides to freelance. It's another privilege that we have, I think, as designers, that the industry allows for that. So great way to meet new people and learn new ways of working and just get insights into all sorts of different types of projects, types of clients, all of that. But I'm also the kind of person that, like, I just want to have a home. I want the comfort of, this is my team, developing those relationships, knowing where my place is. And I interviewed with lots and lots of people. And then at the end of the day, I actually just called up my old boss and I was like, I know I left, but would it be weird? Would you hire me to just work in London? Like, can I just come back? Yeah, sure, of course.
That worked out.
Yeah.
You mentioned sponsorship. I've interviewed former students that the other way, right? They need sponsorship in the US. What's it like from your end, being an American going abroad to have sponsorship there? Is it any different? Is it challenging?
I don't think it's any different at all. No, I don't think it is. JKR is a big enough company that, like, we've got, a people whose job it is to, like, figure out all the paperwork. We've got folks from all over the globe in all of the different studios. So the company's really used to having visa conversations.
I imagine it was maybe a little easier in your case, because a lot of that decision making is, right, you're hiring somebody new, but they need sponsorship. Like,
yeah,
but you're a known entity. You had already worked for the company, so they kind of knew what you were like, and that you would probably at least stay for a few years, right? If they invest those resources into the sponsorship. Yeah. We were talking about your, like, when you started there, what's next if you were to continue? Who do you report to, and what's like a path forward if you were to want to go higher? What are those levels like?
I don't want to go higher. That sounds exhausting. No. And I've got way too much to learn, but I report to the executive creative director, who is Sean Thomas, who is wonderful. He's wonderful, so talented, and just such a great human. So he's the ECD of London.
Okay.
And then there's a couple of levels above him. So then we have Lisa in New York, who has a new title, and I should know what it is, but she's like global
Yeah. Something with global in the
executive
title.
creative director.
Yeah.
And then above her is Tosh. I should have done my homework and checked what everyone's title is. I don't know, CCO maybe?
Yeah. So there's a few other positions above you if you were wanted to like keep going.
Yeah.
At your level, what's the kind of salary or what salary changes have you experienced?
It is so different in the UK.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So like having gone from the US to the UK, the exact same job at the exact same company, I took what felt like a very large pay cut.
Yeah.
But the cost of living here is so different.
Right. That's what I was gonna say.
I guess the range in the UK for creative director, like 80 to 95, 100.
There's many factors. I think
There's
that's
so many factors.
and that's what I want people to understand is when you're looking at a career in graphic design, it's like some people think I remember thinking this, and I still have students like, oh, graphic design, it's a pathway to being rich and famous.
Fame
like,
and fortune.
well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, no, but you can make a good living at it, and there's lots of factors into salary and position and job, and it's not all about that salary too. It's like, where do you want to live, and what is your quality of life, and what projects do you want to work on? But I appreciate you sharing that. It's helpful to a lot of students. You talked about some of the big or I mentioned some of the big companies you've worked with, clients, so I want to take a look at some of those. So here we are, Burger King. What did you do for this? This is so fun.
So this is an initiative is called the Burger King Meltdown. This happened definitely before the new identity rolled out. It was while the new identity was in progress, which is why it looks like the old one, because it is. But this was specifically for the UK market, working with the local market on it. They came to us and said, we want to do a kids meal without the plastic toys. So can you design what that would look like? Again, I will not take credit for the big idea here. It was, I was a design director on this project. My creative director at the time and one of our other friends were out at the pub and talking about the brief and just started riffing. And they were like, that's actually pretty epic and a big shift and a big move for a company like Burger King to take the plastic out of the kids' meals. And they're both parents, the two of them. So they were talking like, it's just so annoying, the amount of plastic crap that your kids amass and all of this stuff. This could be a much bigger story and a much bigger initiative. And what if Burger King didn't just remove the plastic, but what if they did an amnesty and everyone could bring all of the your car full of plastic toys and crap, all that single-use plastic junk. What if Burger King did an amnesty, take it all back, and then you could melt it down and turn it into something that has, a second life? They came back into the office the next day, told me the idea, told myself and a couple other people the idea, and we were all just like, oh yeah, that's good. We put together a little pitch film that had no creative design in it. It was just found footage, a little bit of copy. So working with copywriters, working with someone in motion to just sell the idea of this single-use plastic stuff is just annoying and obviously hurting the planet.
Yeah.
Let's make this a big initiative, do this amnesty, and turn it into something really powerful. And the clients were just like, we love it. Let's do it. Go.
Yeah. Let's take a look at it. See if it.
Yeah.
Wait, did that just say?
Dramatic music.
Mm-hmm. We came up with the name pretty quickly, the Meltdown. And then I worked with the team I came up with the idea of the characters, and I was like, I know, we need a little big bunny and a little car and a wind-up dinosaur toy, and definitely like some kind of robot.
Yeah.
We worked with a character designer out of Mexico. That is Beep Beep, Mr. Hugglesworth, and Rory.
They all have names.
They do have names. And then one of my favorite things in the entire world, actually, if you go back an image, the gigantic sculpture of Beep Beep.
Yeah.
I went into the client and I was like, we need to create a humongous sculpture of them. I want huge ones. And they were like, yeah, okay, let's figure it out. So
Cool.
we got a company to make her out of, recycled material. It was only up on the banks in London for, I think, 3 days.
Yeah.
And then it got taken down and recycled.
So they melted down to make other things? Is that like this photo is?
So admittedly, this image was the ideal. We were in talks with all sorts of different companies that would do the recycling of the plastic and like what the capabilities were for what we could make.
That's so fun. And another one, we were talking about this last time we talked, M&Ms, lots of M&Ms. Do you have a giant bowl of M&Ms in your office? You're just like eating M&Ms all day long?
No, it's really for the best that we don't.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
So what are you working on with M&Ms?
This is a full redesign of the brand. It took probably 2 years, start to finish. JKR's worked with M&Ms for like 20 years. So many people before me have touched this brand and developed things for this brand. I was really lucky to get to work on this. And it was basically, M&M's is such an amazing American and global iconic brand. But what you picture in your head when you close your eyes and then what existed in the world were two very different things.
Mm-hmm.
We worked for a long time to sell this into the client as a project that we felt was really important to do, to fundamentally pencils down, look at the brand assets and the core brand identity as a big initiative. We've constantly been working on M&Ms. And even as we were doing this project, there were still other briefs that we were working on at the same time, because a brand of this scale, it never stops. It never sleeps. It can never just like, hit pause and like, we'll see you in a year and a half. There's always needs for, new products, new packaging, new initiatives.
Oh, it's video. That is definitely fun.
Well, thank you. So yeah, we created a custom typeface, working with the folks at Monotype. We cleaned up the logo slightly, didn't make any massive changes, but then created a whole suite of supporting assets. So this we call the continuum. There's the M icon, which is just the graphic circle with the M in it. I mean, the formula is get to the simplest, most iconic graphic representation. You get to something really simple, then you can start to really play with them, how they come to life, how they interact with each other. The M icon, our ampersand, the product itself, we created new 3D models of the products so that then you can start to animate them and create new kind of static visuals. The design idea that we came up with, that we were working towards, was M&M and knowing that the Mars company was definitely shifting to make sure that every single one of their brands has like a higher purpose meaning beyond just their product. I guess even if it is performative, it's still a good thing to be doing. have a higher purpose and to contribute to the world in a positive way, which M&M's is putting their money where their mouth is. So they have all sorts of initiatives. They have a newly articulated purpose, which is to create a world where everyone feels they belong, which is a very high level, kind of lofty idea. And so as designers, that's kind of an impossible thing to design to. Create a world where it feels like they belong, go. Like,
Yeah.
So we came up with a design idea, which was M&M which was just about the additive kind of principle of 1 + 1 = 3. And the fact that it's true to the brand. So like the heart of the brand, there's an ampersand in the middle of the logo. M&M's is all about Mars and Murray are the two guys, like two people came together to make the brand. When you open up a bag of M&M's, there's tons of them in there. You never eat one. You always like pour them out to share. The bag is full of all different colors. The product comes in all different shapes and sizes and flavors. So it's just kind of like a celebration of like inclusivity and diversity is like built into the brand. Yeah, that's the story that we tried to tell with all of our assets.
Do you know all the different versions here? These different
Yeah, that's
shapes?
almond and crispy and chocolate and mini and peanut and caramel. It's like actually, I think 9 shapes. It's a little intense.
Oh, wow.
An individual M&M is called a lentil. It's a
What?
fun fact. Yeah.
A lentil? Tuck that one away for trivia night. I did not know that.
So this is the before. I think this helps. Close your eyes, you picture M&Ms, and what I pictured was very much more like what we've created. But this was how the brand existed in the world. So this is the before. And then if you go, the next page should be like, this is what M&Ms should look like in the world.
So with something like this, you talk about like, for instance, the illustration. Is that done in-house because you're so big? Or are you working with an illustrator outside of?
No, we worked with external illustrators.
Yeah.
It depends. Some projects we have we definitely have folks internally who have incredible skills. So it just depends on the project.
So you mentioned this is a typeface.
Yeah.
And there's some other ones, look like some other projects. So are you always working with people outside to design those typefaces?
Yeah, actually for typefaces specifically, we tend to work with external partners, but that's not to say that we actually have, like, he is a legend. Bob Seelys. He's been with JKR since the very, very, very beginning. And he is an expert craftsman, impeccable type. And actually it's awesome. Anybody who joins JKR, when you start, you have time set with Bob and you do check-ins with Bob and everybody creates their own typeface. And he like mentors and guides them.
Fun.
So actually we have so many designers who have created their own typefaces. And actually we're working on now with JKR, creating a platform to actually make those typefaces licensable.
Yeah, great.
So we'll start to see more coming out of JKR in that respect.
This is the last one. Yeah, you have to explain that because it's a bunch of X's and a no. What is
Yeah,
that?
you're like, is this type? Is this type defaulting? That is a logo.
Yeah.
It's for Kate Spade Saturday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all sad.
Yeah.
Saturday is the best day of the week.
There we go. There's some type. You can read that.
Yeah, there you go. Kate Spade Saturday. So this was one of my favorite jobs I've ever had in my whole life. It was my dream job. It was in-house in New York. Kate Spade Saturday was a sadly short-lived fashion and lifestyle brand started by the folks at Kate Spade New York. I joined the team probably about 6 months before the brand actually launched. And then I was the last one out the door. We got shut down by the board of directors. So we were a really small team and did physically everything. It was a 360 branding dream. At times there were 2 of us. And I think at most in the like design department, there are maybe 5 or 6 pop-up experiences, physical stores, products, branding, packaging, website, emails, you name it, we did it. And that's actually my old boss, Teresa. She's a legend. Yeah, so it was just so fun. I mean, it was a brand that I connected with. It was built for me basically at the time. And I still am actually surrounded by that stuff. Oh, I've got a lot of those bowls and dishes that were in the packaging So yeah, this was an awesome opportunity to do a whole bunch of things I'd never done before, or like things that I've done some like bits and pieces of. Yeah, this was actually our last campaign. This was our last season, spring 2015.
And that was your New York days, is that right? You're in New York?
Yeah, so that's back in New York. And these were the going out of business emails that I was nominated to create. So we got shut down, and then HR said, "You get to stay. Your job is not ending yet. Someone needs to make all the signage and emails to liquidate all of the product that's left." So it was a surreal time.
How fitting. It's the last slide. It's the
There you go.
end of the visuals.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of amazing work, Kristie.
Oh, thank you.
You sent me some notes, and since we just ended with sort of New York job,
Yeah.
one of the things you wrote about that was learn that people are more important than the work, though the work needs to be top notch as well.
Yeah.
So that's from New York. Yeah. And you also said that London is better for your health. Like the New York hustle is not good, right? So is that how you felt like after your sort of your at the end of your New York days, that you were just kind of like burnt out and needed change? Or
Yep. And I mean, God, I'm happy to admit that I work too much. I still work too much. It seems to be ingrained. I learned it from my parents. My parents' generation, you work hard, nose to the grindstone, and that's like the purpose of life. And I think younger generations have a much more balanced and healthy kind of approach to the world. It's the thing that I can intellectualize it and see it and know that this is not how I want my life to work, but it's just one of those things that I'm in my comfort when I'm just working.
Yeah.
Which is not healthy at all.
Yeah.
And I would imagine actually just even globally through COVID, I know that everybody's priorities have shifted in a healthy way to living your life, and spending time with your loved ones and not working all the time is really important.
And you feel like in London that's a truer just overall vibe that people have and way of life. Yeah.
I had come over and worked at the London office of JKR for a week when I was still a design director in New York. We got a really cool project in the New York office that I was meant to lead. And I was like, this is great. But I, at the time, didn't have any available designers that were able to work on it. I was like, guys, nobody here has time to do this. And one of the creative directors in London said, oh, it's not a problem. I'm going on holiday. I can free up my whole team. Why don't you just go over to London and you can work with my team and work on the project? So I did, because of course, get to experience a different country. I'd never been to London before. And definitely the approach to work and like the mindset, the lifestyle, everybody works really hard and it's just as talented, but at 6 o'clock, you go to the pub.
You go to the pub. Yeah. I've experienced that when I've been to London. I love your story about like, you're just out at the pub but you solved the creative problem, or you started to solve the creative problem just because you were relaxed, right? And you were just hanging out, and it was no pressure, right?
Yeah. Having some space to kind of like think.
Right.
It's really important to go out in the world and just see what's out there, like visual stimulus and input and, rich culture. And London's just a really great city. I think it has like all the things I liked about New York, with none of the things I hated. Except for bagels. Bagels don't exist here. And
but you've lived in all kinds of major cities, and before New York there was Chicago. I mean, if you're talking about food, you gotta get a Chicago dog when you're in Chicago. And you worked there again. What was the company again?
That was VSA Partners.
VSA Partners. And your note here says, I was such an entitled brat.
Oh, I was.
In your Chicago days? What do you mean by that?
I mean, even when I worked for Kelly, I just like looking back at like my young self, it's just like my values were maybe not where they should be. I mean, I was just working too much, but you just don't have the perspective to understand like the business implications. I just think back to some of my behaviors about things that I got upset about. And I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Oh, you want me to move where I'm sitting? No, I don't want to move where I'm sitting. I don't want to work with that person. I like where I am right now. Like, oh, come on. No, there's some things I'm really not proud of.
Chicago is fun. That was
That was gorgeous and great.
we did visit you.
And I babysat your oldest
Yeah, we
child.
had our
And it
our
was the first
child.
time that I was in charge of a baby. I think I just told you guys that a few weeks
Yeah,
ago.
I think you were definitely more nervous than Kelly and I, being new parents, leaving our child because we were going to some business meeting, some design
Yeah,
meeting.
it was fun, though.
He survived. He's all
Good.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, nothing traumatic happened there.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah, Chicago is a great city. But like where we first met, though, if we go all the way back, at least as far as working, you worked
Mhm.
with Kelly at Kelly Design before it kind of transitioned into To Communicate. And I love your note because I could write the same thing about my first, like one of my first jobs out of school.
Yeah.
You said, all the anecdotes I can think of are all the times I made mistakes.
Yeah.
Man, I made so many mistakes. Kelly was so patient and forgiving of me.
Mhm.
Yeah. Any mistakes you want to share here? Anything that's not too embarrassing?
I mean, it's all embarrassing, but I got through it. This is the worst one, the one that's like really bad. The one that's really bad. Kelly was so patient. Okay, so we used to design for magazines, and there were ways of setting up the files so that every article was its own file. And then you had, it was really important, your presets, so like your settings for like type styles and colors and like font sizes, everything was all figured out. That's how you make sure you make a cohesive magazine. And I was inputting copy into all these files, and every time I was copying and pasting in, it kept trying to insert all sorts of new type styles into the drop down, and I was getting really irritated and it wasn't going away. So I started naming them expletives, thinking that like I'll delete them out because you had to import it and then I go back and delete it. So I just started typing in offensive things. I was getting so mad. Totally forgot about it. And then when it was time to actually launch that issue, Kelly goes into the client's office and sits down and copies the files onto their computer. And when she was checking them, she was just like, what are all of these type styles that are really inappropriately named? That is not professional. You can't do that. And she came back to the office, just like, Kristie, we have to talk. What happened? And never ever make that mistake again. No, who would make that mistake? Those stupid.
Some mistakes you only make once. We met at Mass Art.
How did we actually meet? Was it just because we were both about the like?
Well, we were
design?
both around because I
Yeah.
was a grad student, you were undergrad, and I probably visited classes or sat in on critiques. And I did do reviews. Was there just senior reviews or junior reviews? So I probably would have reviewed some of your work at that point, because they asked the grad students to kind of look at those kind of things. Probably saw portfolios towards the end of senior year, things like that. But yeah, there's just that one class interaction. I mean, Mass Art was a fun place to just hang out and and just like talk about art and design and be in that culture. So, but I did want to ask you, you're from Massachusetts, is that right?
Mhm.
So did you just know about Mass Art growing up, or
No,
how did you decide to go there? And
again, the like bratty entitled youth that I was. I guess I did know of Mass Art because I knew people who were a year or two above me who had gone there. And it took me a couple years working on my parents to get them to agree that I was going to apply to art schools. And I mean, actually, they were very supportive of me applying to art schools, definitely. But it was always like, of course you can apply to art schools, but you should also apply to liberal arts schools because you might want to get a more rounded education. I was like, yeah, sure, of course. And just, over time, just whittled it down to like, no, I'm going to go to art school. So like, let's save the time. So I applied to all the art schools. So it's like Pratt and RISD and Mass Arts and the Art Institute of Chicago, actually, those four, I think. And I loved Chicago. I wanted to go to the Art Institute of Chicago. That was my plan. It all basically came down to my parents said, like, you can go to Art Institute of Chicago if you want to. We can afford this much money, which won't cover all of it. So you can take out loans and, we'll support you and make that work. And I was like, yeah, okay. And they said, or you could go to Mass Art, which is a state school, and then we can pay for all of it and you won't owe anything. And I said, yep, that one. Let's do that.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's unique. Yeah, I mean, Mass Art, it's a deal, right? I mean, if you're in state, even before we were there, it was a pretty decent art and design school. And
Yeah.
it's definitely gotten bigger, right? There's more buildings now, and
Mhm.
the quality's probably improved. Yeah, for the price and for the education, the quality, the faculty that were there, I felt
Mm.
it was totally a deal.
Oh, it's totally a
Um,
deal. Yeah. I mean, the education that I got was top notch.
Yeah.
And we worked our butts off.
So at Mass Art, it sounds like you had a good experience. Are there things that stand out, faculty or classes or relationships you made, with students, or what do you remember about that time?
I mean, friends that I made there that are still like some of my closest people,
Oh,
definitely.
really? Yeah, that's
Oh,
great.
yeah. Oh, it makes me nostalgic. I'm so old, Chris. We've gotten so old.
You're not so old.
So
You do
old.
you do have some little gray hairs there. I got a lot
I
more, but
I have lots. Yeah, stripes. Oh my God, it was just so great. It was such a great time of
yeah.
being surrounded by, everyone was just so young and full of energy, but like super creative and engaged. You were just always like experimenting and learning and it's just such a luxury to be able to kind of like sit around and talk about design philosophy. And like we'd sit around in the studios and just like hang out and chat and like look at each other's work. Would go and sit for Justin, who is an illustrator, so he could draw me. And so he'd be drawing me and I'd be sitting there reading art history. The fact that you could be so consumed by it, just kind of like revel in it. And I mean, at that age, every single class, every single lesson or whatever is like so brand new, just
Right.
learning the fundamentals. I still remember my type class, learning about kerning and tracking and rags. I don't know if they teach that because I find myself explaining to people about rags and M dashes and N dashes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, getting these dream projects that like when you get out into the world, it's very rare to have someone come to you and say like, can you, come up with some piece of technology that you wish that you existed and concept it and then design it and name it. The kind of
Yeah.
projects you get to do as a student are just like ridiculously fun.
I mean, I vaguely remember I think it was your thesis. I don't know what we call it, thesis or capstone
Yeah,
project, but
yeah.
it was a book. It was about fashion, right? And you designed
Alexei
some book.
Brodovich and
Oh,
Harper's
okay. And then you
Bazaar.
made it. Did you make a skirt or a dress or something?
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I know, I'm gonna study Alexei Brodovich and Harper's Bazaar. He basically brought modern design to the masses and to the United States through that publication, and just like the typography and the negative space and working with the Eameses and Richard Avedon and just like bringing all these incredibly talented people and getting them in everyone's homes. So I studied that, and then I was like, I know, I made a dress that was 1960 style and then did overskirts that were taffeta or something ridiculous.
Yeah, they were very
And I silk screened the pieces of the images of the magazine onto different layers so you could recreate spreads. I don't entirely, in retrospect, know exactly what I was getting at with that, but
but it looked cool. It was fun to do.
it looked cool. It was fun. Yeah.
So it sounds like you had a little support from home and art
Oh, I
school.
definitely.
So were you, like all this stuff we've been talking about, were you that kind of kid too? Were you like making stuff, painting and drawing and making a mess in your bedroom somewhere?
Always like craft projects and drawing and painting. And I was, a real nerd in school. I was a really good student. So I got straight A's always. It's because I'm really good at following rules.
That's good for a designer most of the time.
Yeah. And I like puzzles and I like to like make things just right. I was a really good student, but the stuff that I really loved doing was just making stuff. Basically, the deal that I had with my parents, super supportive of both my sister and I, came from a generation where neither of my parents went to college. That time that wasn't a thing. So they were adamant and worked their tails off to give my sister and I the opportunity and to be able to like financially send us to college. Growing up, I just knew like the most important thing was for me to go to college. You know, even from a young age, the talks my dad would have with us about like, put in the time now, work hard so that you have all the opportunities in the world as you grow up and go out into the world. And you need to get your college diploma in order to be able to go out into the world in the workforce and get a job and have a career. I definitely got pushback from people. A lot of teachers gave me a lot of a hard time about going to art school because I was such a good student. And they were like, you could go to a good school. You could go to like a smart person school.
A smart person school. Oh my
Yeah.
God. So did you excel in some like math or science or something that people thought that these teachers thought you were going to go study that? Or
I don't know what they thought I was going to study. I
yeah,
really liked geometry. I was good in English. So I definitely got a lot of attitude from a lot of, you know, elders that I was
that's interesting.
slacking by going to art school.
Yeah, but like this is the story that we want to hear, though. It's like being a really good designer, you have to be really good at a lot of other things. You can
Yeah.
study graphic design, you should, right? But
Yeah.
you know, you got to go learn about all these products and services that you're designing for, right? So you gotta,
Yeah, you have to be like really good at research and processing information. And so much of what I do is taking massive amounts of information and figuring out how to condense it down to something that's really simple. Communication, presenting, that is one of the biggest parts of my job, is basically selling the work. Yeah, just explaining all the thinking, because yeah, we're not artists. It's not like the decisions that you make are not based on a whim or like it shouldn't be subjective. There's a piece of it that is the magic, is the art part. And I tell people that I'm a professional snob. And I've been training for that my entire life. And it's just getting worse and worse as I get older, which is true, but it's having the eye and the vision and the taste level. But then if you're not grounded in business and reality and storytelling and human connection and brand truths, if you aren't strategic about it, then you're not doing your job as a designer. It's a proper career.
It's absolutely proper career. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of history, a lot of good points. You talked a little bit about London and sort of the lifestyle there is not what it is in New York. Yeah, I mean, you admittedly said you work hard. What do you do to not work hard? What do you do to relax? Like we got on and you said you're gonna go out to the pub and meet some friends. So that sounds nice and relaxing and fun.
It's not the normal for me on a Friday night. It's really
no.
We've got folks staying with us.
So what else do you do to relax then?
I've made that room behind me that is super dark. Those are pocket doors that can close. So it turns into like a little cave. I nap a lot.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. I absolutely agree with naps.
Yep. I nap. That makes me very happy. I will chill and do crossword puzzles and hang out with my kitty cat. That's very calming for me. Now that, you know, the world has opened back up and travel is back, that has been epic and awesome, because the fact that I live within a couple hours flight of a bunch of different countries.
Right. Where have you been there?
Well, we just went on a proper holiday and went to Tuscany, which please do that if you can. Rented a villa with some friends in the Italian countryside. Holy hell, that's where I need to live. But
that's retirement.
Yeah. But I've taken weekend trips to like Barcelona and Copenhagen, and I've had like client meetings in Paris, and I just have to go to Paris for a couple days. Places in Greece, the coast of Spain.
Very good. Yeah, that sounds relaxing. Just going to a new place, experience a new culture and new food, and
have a wander, sit down, eat some delicious food. Yeah.
Sounds like life is good.
Life is great.
Awesome.
Life is great. I'm spoiled. My life is great.
All right, let's move on to the pop quiz.
A quiz?
Yes, you got a quiz. You got don't worry, no studying needed. This first one dovetails nicely with what we were just talking about. Okay, you got to pick one. This first question, you got to pick one. London, New York, Chicago, or Boston?
London.
All right, work beverage.
Coffee, black.
Black even. Wow. You're hardcore with your coffee. Well, after work beverage, I'm going to guess it's something that the pub serves, whatever that is. Or
I'm very much like a red wine gal these days.
oh, okay. M&Ms, plain or peanut?
Peanut butter.
Peanut.
Except they don't sell them here, so peanut.
Sketchbook, blank or gridded?
Dotted.
The dotted grid. Yeah. That's a good one. Type or image?
Type.
All right, we're gonna go way back because I know we didn't mention it, but I know you had some records in a collection at one point. Maybe you still do. So vinyl records or streaming service?
No vinyl.
Sticking with music, favorite Boston band?
Ooh, favorite Boston band. Dinosaur Jr.
Dinosaur Jr. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's Western Mass, but yeah.
I don't know. Do you listen to music while you're working? If so, what is it?
Don't.
No, you don't. No music.
I literally just talk all day long, or I listen all day long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a creative director role. You just talk
Yeah.
or listen.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
last question. If you weren't a designer, what would you be?
Okay, I aspire to either be a soul singer in the 60s. I have none of the qualifications, or Ali Sheedy from Short Circuit, which is to say I would take in all of the like broken animals and take care of them. It's probably something on those lines.
Final thoughts for aspiring designers. Maybe someday they want to reach creative director level. Your advice?
Oh, my advice. Don't be an asshole.
Short and sweet. I think that's excellent advice. Just be nice, be kind. Yeah.
It's really important. Yeah.
Kristie, it was great catching up with you.
Oh, so fun.
So fun to see you. We'll have to make it more than once a decade kind of thing.
Definitely, yes, please. And you guys should absolutely come over.
Oh yeah, we're
Over.
headed to London.
Yep.
We're gonna come over and see you for sure.
Perfect.
Definitely.
Hi.
It's great chatting. Thanks so much.
Of course. Yeah. Take care. Say hi to Kelly and the kids.
I will. Bye.
Bye.
So what do we learn from Kristie? First, you will make mistakes during your design career. Learn from them. And when you become the creative director, be patient. And number 2, take naps. Absolutely agree with that one. Thanks to Kristie Malivindi of Jones, Knowles, Ritchie. If you have any comments or questions for me or any of my guests, please leave them in the comments and subscribe so you can catch the next episode of Design Futures. Until next time, go learn something. Your future depends on it. Thanks for listening. See ya.